What's going on, everybody, friends of FanDuel, and welcome in for your weekly FanDuel Monday night preview and Q&A. I'm Ryan Williams. You can find me on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W, talking all things FanDuel, single game, FanDuel Sportsbook, anything that's related to FanDuel. I'm talking about it in the DFS realm. And I'm joined here by my good friend, Jim Sonis. You can find him on Twitter at Jim Sonis. If you're not following him already, y'all don't know what you're doing. Senior writer and analyst for Number Fire. Jim, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Ryan. I feel like both of us are in kind of like weird states right now because like I grew up a Jets fan. I've disowned them long ago, but like
wow.
I still kind of pull for them. And like, we finally got Justin Fields starting for your Bears, and Matt Nagy kind of gave us like the double-barreled middle fingers in the first start. And it's like, no, you're not going to enjoy this. And so I feel like we're kind of in the same mental space here.
Oh man, it was brutal. It was rough to watch. I mean, Justin Tucker kicking a field goal that went for more yards than the Bears had of total net offense on Sunday. So very, very rough here. There's a lot of other issues besides the quarterback position that hopefully they get righted. And I don't know what's going on with the Jets. I mean, should have placed the 0-17 bet on the FanDuel Sportsbook for them just to have some action on it. Zach Wilson is actually a quarterback who I have money on to win Rookie of the Year just because he was starting the season. And I had a little bit of expectations with Robert Saleh coming in there that they could be in games, but it looks very bleak.
I've got a lot of dynasty exposure to Zach Wilson, and I am very nervous right now. But hey, it's early. I'll be nervous. I'm not going to give up hope yet, but it's I've got faith still. Just he's not making it easy on me.
Not easy at all. Guys, welcome in. We are talking the FanDuel Monday Night Football preview show. We'll get into the Monday Night Football game as I see you guys got your questions coming in. We appreciate that. Make sure if you guys are watching this on YouTube with us, just hit that like button. Just do it one time. All it takes is 1 second. Hit that like button. You could subscribe to the channel. Get all the good stuff that we're bringing you here for FanDuel to make sure that your bankroll is getting large. All right, Jim, let's talk about this slate here. We got Philly coming into Dallas, taking on it, and with a 51.5 point spread that we have here, or not spread, with the 51.5 point total, 3.5 point spread in favor of the Cowboys. What are your leans coming into this game that we could talk about and maybe kind of start in that realm here on the FanDuel Sportsbook?
Yeah, I mean, they tie in together because like my betting thoughts are obviously going to dictate the way I view things from a single game perspective as well. And I think the Cowboys are going to cover this spread -3.5. I feel pretty confident I feel good about what the offense has done through the first two games. They've had much tougher matchups than what I know the Eagles played really well. Week 1, they disturbed, I would say, the 49ers in week 2 as well. But I still have a lot of faith in this Cowboys offense, given how well they played against the Buccaneers and against the Chargers as well. I think the fun thing, too, is that they showed they could, they could stand up even when they lost dudes, like with no La'el Collins after he tried to bribe someone in week 2. Like they were still fine there against the Chargers. They were fine without Michael Gallup. So I think the Cowboys cover 3.5. That's kind of where I'm at. What about you?
Okay, so I'm actually on the opposite side.
Okay, good. I like it.
I am taking the points with Philly. I'm also taking the over in this game. If you look back at the games that Dallas has played at home under the Dak regime, they have put up some monstrous points. I think and this is against Philly too, in home games under the regime. I think they've scored 29 or more in 5 games that he's played at home against this team. So you definitely like them to hit their implied total. And that means that Philly's going to have to do something on the other side to kind of attack this defense. And I think that the reason we're getting this lean is because we're going to have to see what Jalen Hurts can do throwing the football, or if he can move in a way, to make it so that he's aggressively taking on this defense, the Dan Quinn defense, which is one I always like to attack. So I'm good with this, with taking this side. I see Drew Pretty was in the chat on Facebook talking about Hurts over 55.5 rushing yards. I'm hammering that. I think that he's in a good spot to hit this when you're looking at the full games that he's played in. He only has not hit that number in 1 game, and I believe that was when he was pulled. He got 2 touchdowns in that game, but only 34 yards. So other than that, I think that this offense goes through him, and I love Jalen Hurts tonight in this game, regardless of what happens.
Right. And number fire's projections have it at 41 rushing yards. That feels low to me. I would take the over on
That's
that
very
for
low.
sure. With 55.5, I think the good thing for if you're trying to get to an over with that one is that you're kind of hoping that the Eagles throw the ball a lot. And they did do that in week one. Like if you look at their game plan in week one, they came out and they said, okay, you want to throw on Atlanta, so we're going to. So I think that you have to decide. I think that maybe this is like a Nick Sirianni thing. Maybe like we can have faith in him in attacking the opposing defense the way you'd want to attack them. And I feel like it's probably not a bad idea to go at the Cowboys in that way. So I think that Hurts is interesting at 55.5. I think that like the tough dilemma I have is like, do I prefer Hurts at MVP or Dak? Because Hurts is going to run more. Dak's going to run where it counts. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but like when Dak runs, it's almost always in the red zone. And I think that that can lead to some big FanDuel point totals too. I expect his passing totals to be pretty good. So like that's where I'm most torn is deciding like who I prefer for singling between the two. I mean, obviously I could just go both. Like that's probably the right answer, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean that is the answer, but I proceed with caution on this because I said the right answer the last time we did this, the first week of the show, that it was you play Lamar and that's how you won all the money, and
right.
You didn't play Lamar and you won all the money against the Raiders. So, but no, I think that this is setting up in just a great matchup for both of these two guys to be in the a top 10 lineup, if not the winning lineups that are going to come in. I love that you mentioned the Dak Prescott rushing ability, because on the FanDuel Sportsbook, he's coming in at plus 260 to score an anytime touchdown. And you know how much I love taking the quarterbacks at anytime touchdown. So I love he has less favorable odds to score than Kenneth Gainwell. He has the same amount of odds to score as Goddard and Rager with that red zone role. And I think that you're looking at it. He only has, I had this written down here, so only 4 rushing attempts, I believe, to start this year. That could be because of the mobility and things of that nature. And, they had a low scoring game against the Chargers. They didn't have many opportunities to be right down there inside the 5. But I think if they're 5 or closer, I think that taking that shot on him at home, just getting the crowd energized, I could see him scoring a touchdown there.
Yeah, and back in week one, so he had those just couple rush attempts you're talking about, but 2 of his rush attempts in week one were inside the red zone. And that's not like a new thing for Dak either. Like we've traditionally seen him be a guy who runs most often inside the red zone. And like if you think about it like schematically, it makes sense too, because you're jam-packed in there in the red zone. You don't have a lot of room to operate. It's more advantageous to have a running quarterback there than it's always advantageous to have a running quarterback, but it's more advantageous there from a numbers perspective. So I actually eyed up that same one of the Dak Prescott anytime touchdown score plus 260. I think given the willingness he showed in week one to scramble once he got in close, I think that's a really good number.
Yeah, I just think it's a number that's going to hit more times than not. And so getting action on that in a game like this where we can project a lot of scoring, to come in on the game, I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about you were talking about building the teams and the MVP thing, and I just think that if we're going to play MVP in this, I mean, maybe it does come to fruition if Dak does rush in a touchdown and then he throws for 2 or 3 other ones, that he could have some MVP viability. I think that people might lean to go there, although I do see that not a lot of times do people put the quarterback in the MVP slot. I was playing in the single game last night on Sunday Night Football and had an Aaron Rodgers team going. And I forget what his percent was, but it was low. Most people went Devontae Adams. They went Aaron Jones. So I do think that it is interesting that Jalen Hurts comes in at 16.5 on FanDuel. And then you have the next closest Philly player being 11,000 at Miles Sanders. Everybody else is Dallas in between there. But I think Jalen Hurts makes a lot of sense at MVP.
Because are you putting him above Dak for MVP?
I think I am. Yeah. Just because I do love having that shot on Dak to hedge with the rushing ability touchdown. So if I get that, maybe I do miss out on the MVP points. But I think that Jalen Hurts is going to get the rushing upside for sure. And if this is a game where, they're playing from 2 scores plus behind and he kind of just has to compile points, whether that's rushing or passing, I just see the paths of him getting there and spiking there more often than not.
I think that I agree where Jalen has the edge straight up. And I'm like, it's tough for me because like I do love Dak a lot. And I think the overall takeaway that I would have here is that we have a pretty strong lean towards the quarterbacks in general at MVP for this game because I mean, like, obviously there is a scenario where Amari Cooper's the highest scoring guy, where CeeDee Lamb's the highest scoring guy, Zeke could get there, Devontae Smith could get there. But I think when it's two running quarterbacks, my personal willingness to deviate at MVP is lower. Do you have the same kind of philosophy where you're just like, I love going running back at MVP when I have the right situations. I just don't know if this slate where I have two good running quarterbacks is the right time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe lean to the side of I couldn't do it with Miles Sanders. I just don't think the equity is there. He's not getting the running back share that we would look. But Zeke makes for a very appealing MVP spot because nobody is going to play him at that spot. If you're playing him probably in the flex because you're saying Tony Pollard is there. I've seen him be more efficient. I've seen him, get more yards off of the carries and targets that he's seeing. And so I think that will keep his ownership low at the MVP spot. And if he's the one who's getting this touchdown equity, or they just decide that, it's going to be Zeke's time to shine, and we were just using Tony Pollard in game scripts where it was favorable to him, I could see Zeke really paying off there at MVP and some high where you're dealing with a field where there's 10,000 plus people you're trying to beat.
Yeah, and the good thing, too, is that Zeke looked good last week. I know part of that's because the Chargers want you to run on them. Like, that's kind of like their thing. Like, hey, feel free. And the Cowboys were like, sure, we'll take it. But, like, he looked good, too. It wasn't just Tony Pollard who was scorching it up there. Like, Zeke got to the second level a couple times there. And, like, Zeke hasn't broken long runs in a very long time. But he had a couple last week where he actually, like, he looked a little spry. It was kind of nice to see that version of Zeke back again. So I actually don't think that's a terrible idea to go with Zeke. Also, last week he had 3 out of 8 red zone chances for the team. He had 72% of the snaps. I think that like if I were to deviate from one of those rushing quarterbacks, I think like if we're talking about this from a tournament perspective, I don't think Zeke's the worst way to do it.
No, not at all. I mean, and when we're talking about these fields where they're, let's talk about the top tier fields, right? So you're getting on there, you can play the Millie, you can play, first gets 40K, and you're dealing with 20,000 people. I mean, if you want to split first place, because we see that happen a lot of times where teams are just so, and like last night, Mason Crosby and Kyle Juszczyk were in the winning lineup.
Yeah.
And that team, there was only 2 people that built that team in a pool of 40,000, so you have to think about ways to kind of get contrarian and have it make sense, in these tournaments that you're in. If you're not playing in the single entries or you're not playing in cash, if you are looking to take home that big payday, I do like getting Zeke there, getting action Zeke there, and MVP. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat right now. I see S Bruner 17 in the chat saying what's up to us. I appreciate you coming in on Twitch. Drew's in there, Andrew Carlson's in there, and we're talking about some of the skill position players. So I'll kind of parlay this, Jim, because Andrew is asking about Zach Ertz, and I've seen a couple questions about Devontae Smith and how we feel about him. He's got an over 57.5 receiving yards line is kind of what we're looking at Devonta. The skill position players for Philly are so hard to dissect. I mean, outside of the running back situation that we have going on here, let's just talk about the pass catching options and what I'd be leaning to do with Jalen. And I'd probably only be willing to play him with one guy. Maybe I'll make a lineup with 2 guys, and those 2 guys are going to be Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert if I was going to lean somewhere. I mean, Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, I know that the shares have kind of been similar, but as far as getting onto the field and seeing routes run, like Dallas Goedert has Zach Ertz by a mile there. So I think he's definitely the one that you would want to take a chance on, even if Zach Ertz falls into the end zone. Maybe he only gets 20 yards and a touchdown. That might not be enough, or might not matter enough in this game to pay off. Devonta Smith is the alpha, but it is just crazy to me. I mean, they got Jalen Reagor running routes. They got Quez Watkins out there. They're running, 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field. They got 2 running backs who can catch passes. So it's very hard to dissect what's going on with Philly. How do you feel with Philly, Jim? And if you had to attack this side of the football with Jalen Hurts weapons,
they're so hard to figure out, man. I would love to just go all in on Devontae Smith because he's so talented, and like I know that he's probably going to get the kinds of targets that I want. The problem is I'm a little bit worried about Diggs. I think that he's been playing pretty well so far this year. At least that's the way things have sounded, and I think there's a decent shot that Devontae Smith winds up seeing a lot of Diggs. So I don't know. It's like a little Alabama matchup there, which is kind of fun, I guess. But a little bit worried about that. And the question would be, okay, if Diggs sees a lot of Devontae, what does that do? Like, does that open up targets for Goddard, as you alluded to? Does that open up targets for Jalen Reagor? And like, I can't have a high level of confidence there. So I feel like what I'm going to wind up doing is just like trusting the talent and going with Devontae Smith. But I have questions about that, and I have reservations around it that prevent me from being like super enthusiastic in doing so.
No, and I think that's with reason, right? I mean, Diggs has been incredible for this Dallas secondary to start the year. So, maybe you do take a lean on Dallas Goedert. I mean, he's only 9,500, Jim, and you're looking at the tight end position against this team, and Gronk scored twice against them, and people might be forgetting, but like the Chargers should have had 2 tight end touchdowns.
They got called back.
Got called back, both of them. Cook and Parham.
I was screaming in Slack about Donald Parham to JJ, my boss, and like I was like so excited. I was like, "Oh man, Donald Parham caught a touchdown!" And I was like, "Oh no, I got you excited for nothing," and I felt really guilty about that. But like that whole game was so frustrating. Like with the way, because I had a lot of Dak in that game. Cal, our video producer, he loves Parham because he's a huge XFL fan, which is a very weird niche to fill. Cal's different duck for sure. He is a big XFL fan, but like I got so excited, and that whole game was just so stupid with so many penalties. So like I think that that looking at trying to take advantage of the linebacking core for the Cowboys, as you alluded to, maybe that's the weak spot we can target, and that would also play into the discussion around Devontae Smith seeing a lot of Diggs like that could funnel things towards the tight end too.
It's just very hard. I see that Bruner from Twitch was in the trash. Bruner was asking about this was Drew Pretty. Sorry, Drew. You're asking about the receptions. And I do think that I would rather take the Devonta Smith yards prop at 57.5, I believe is what it is, over the 4.5 receptions prop, just because of how much the ball kind of spreads around. And Devonta Smith, he's a big playability. He has the big playability, big play waiting to happen. I think he could get there, on limited catches. I see some of you guys asking about the props and lines. Bruno, we do like the over of 51.5, or at least I do. I think that is good to hit tonight. Jim's in on it too, so you got both of us on there backing you there. I want to make sure that we're already almost 20 minutes in, and this is what's fun about the single game slates when we have two teams like this, because there's so much to dissect on both sides. I do want to talk about the Cowboys side outside of Zeke. What are we doing with the pass catchers here? We got Amari Cooper, who is going to go against Darius Slay, I think, in coverage. He struggled. He hasn't always, Darius Slay hasn't always shadowed him, but when he's been on him, he has struggled in this matchup, both when he was at Detroit and now being in Philly. And then you have CeeDee Lamb, who is, a dynasty darling. People just love this guy on CeeDee Lamb, love him on Twitter, who's going to be on the other side. And I both think they're going to see significant ownership. Are they the only two we can trust? Can we trust a guy like Cedric Wilson, who looks to be a part-time player? He's been on the field to fill in for Michael Gallup, but not really seeing a snap share that Michael Gallup would see. And then you got the two tight ends to dissect as well on this side, with Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz. So how do you feel about the pass catchers for Dallas, Joe?
I want to try to be overweight on Amari Cooper because of what you were talking about, where people love CeeDee Lamb Dynasty. They love him on Twitter. And like I do too. Like I get it. Cause like you watch him play and he's like so fun to watch just cause like you give him the ball in space and just like stupid things happen every single time. So like I love CeeDee Lamb too, but I think that can allow us to underrate how good Amari Cooper is. Like in that that Buccaneers game, like 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. He goes back home. I don't like to look at home road splits too much because like there's a lot of noise in them. But like if you were talking about Dak and what he's done at home, Amari is like just as extreme in terms of home road splits. So
yes,
I feel like because Amari has a higher salary, because the Twitter sentiment is not as high on him, I want to try to be pretty heavy on Amari because I think that upside, like that true ceiling, that favors Amari too. So it's not like an anti-Lamb thing; it's a pro Amari thing for me.
yeah, and I'd be willing to take teams that have Jalen Hurts and a pass catcher, whether that he's at MVP or maybe it's Dak, but then taking like Zeke on the other side, and then one of these guys, probably leaning Cooper, who's $500 more expensive than CD Lamb, and has that. I wasn't even thinking about his home road splits, Jim, that you're talking about, which have been absolutely astronomical, being there in Dallas, even when he was with Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
So I love getting action on Amari Cooper and just taking those chances where, you're building these teams and people are like, okay, let me jam in the guys that I know are going to get me points, or I know I can feel confident in them. And by even just writing out a guy like CD Lamb, you can already make your lineup unique in that regard. I see that Bet Okay on Facebook. He likes getting action on an Amari Cooper anytime touchdown. So he's in on the Amari Cooper train as well. I think Amari Cooper coming in at plus 105 to score a touchdown. And he's actually, or no, he's behind CD Lamb. Okay, so he's the third best. He has the third best odds on Dallas to score a touchdown here. So even more sentiment that's going to be leaning. If I have to cut one of these guys out, it's going to be Amari.
Yeah, like that's a little short. I don't think I can bet that number. I still think the Dak anytime touchdown one is the best one. I wanted to ask you because I had no take on this. I can't figure it out. Do you have a preference between Jarwin and Schultz between the two?
I don't, only because I won't be playing either of these guys, but I guess Blake Jarwin, just because he's the cheaper option. And he has, he's only getting these couple catches a game, but I feel like he's always in when there's a significant play that needs to happen. Like I always feel like he's catching these plays on later downs. And that's just me going off at the top of my head and going through the games that I've watched for Dallas. But I think he is seeing the field and is running significant amount of routes, the same as Dalton Schultz too. So I'll just go with the cheaper guy and take a chance on Blake Jarwin there.
Yeah, those two guys. If you look at the routes run at Next Gen Stats, they've actually both run about half the routes so far. Schultz is at 47 out of about 83, and Jarwin's at 44. As far as depth of target, Schultz is at 2.8 average depth of target, and Jarwin's 7.1. So Jarwin's getting a little bit more downfield love. So maybe I should just go Jarwin. Maybe I should make that easier on myself and just go with him.
Fair. So that means it'll be Schultz. So,
yes, correct.
So everybody make sure you hedge with Schultz. I want to make sure we get to DJ Cassier's chat here coming in from Facebook. He's talking about his team. He has Dak at superstar MVP. It might be there for him. And then Cooper, Elliott, Lamb as well. So just a Cowboys onslaught. And the only bring back piece would be Devonta Smith on the other side. DJ, I think that is a good way to go in tournament lines for sure, because you're pretty much taking all of the equity of the Cowboys implied total there by getting the main guys from the lineup, and then you're taking probably the best skill player on the other side as far as numbers go with Devonta Smith. So I think that lineup you could see some dupes. You could see some people running that same lineup too. But if you're playing single game entry, if you're playing in cash games as well on FanDuel, I feel like that should pay off dividends with the strong build there. I would say that, just by not having Hurts, I could see that, paying off a little bit in tournaments if that were to hit and Philly just comes out here and lays an egg, because I think people will find ways to talk themselves into getting Hurts on the other side.
Yeah, I think I still want to personally, but I think the other thing that DJ's that's good for you there is you are taking a stand and saying, hey, I think the Cowboys win this game. And that's kind of, again, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, Ryan, where we talk about how we want to have a story for how the game plays out. And if you, DJ, think that the Cowboys just torch them, that is the route for going there. I was curious, what are we looking at in terms of like value plays? Because like if I know I want to go Dak and Hurts, and like at a certain point I've got to find some lower salary dudes. Are you a Quez Watkins kind of guy, or what are you looking at down here?
Oh yeah, so I thought we were sharing your screen, not my screen. But yeah, I was looking at Quez Watkins as soon as you said that. He's 7,000 right now. If you're looking at this a single game, and I was actually looking at some props on him. I saw people were asking about props, and we'll get to those before the show closes out. But this guy, to get an anytime touchdown, he's plus 380. Okay. And he's the big play guy, right? Like he's the guy that's going to take the top off of the defense. And if you're saying, Jim, that we do get Diggs kind of limiting Devonta Smith and what he can do, the next piece to go would be Quez Watkins, the preseason darling, the guy who's getting all the hype coming into this season. He's a big play waiting to happen. And you love getting exposure to these big play guys. I mean, I was salty about Van Jefferson yesterday because I had a lot of him, and then Deshaun Jackson just takes my heart away from me. But I love getting guys who can score from anywhere on the field, and Quez Watkins is that guy for Philly.
Absolutely. So I think that he's really interesting, just given that, like, again, like you said, like if we do get Diggs limiting Devontae, that could open up stuff for him too.
Yes. I do want to talk to the Tony Pollard side of things real quick, and then we could just briefly hit on Miles Sanders before we close it out. And Tony Pollard, he has a receiving prop of over 20.5 on the FanDuel Sportsbook, I believe. I did get action in the same game parlay with that line as well. I love that. I think he's averaging over 30 receiving yards to kind of start the year and has really just been explosive with the touches he's getting. How do you feel about that line, Jim?
Yeah, he's had 29 and 31 receiving yards in the first two games. He's gone over that both times. I think the one concern I might have is if the Cowboys get ahead, because that's a script that favors Zeke being on the field and it favors rushing. So for me, where I think that the Cowboys, I'm comfortable laying 3.5, it's tough for me to get to the over for Pollard. But with you, if you're going the Eagles plus 3.5, then I think that correlates well to Pollard going over his receiving prop.
Yeah. So I think that Pollard makes sense if you're talking, let's talk about the single game. If you're playing a team that has 3 or more Eagles on it, I would probably only go 3 just because of how condensed the scoring is probably going to be from the Dallas side. I want to get action on somebody else besides Pollard, but Pollard would be an interesting pivot off of Zeke, who is, he's up there 10,000, but $2,000 difference from Zeke. So he could probably maneuver you into getting to Devonta Smith with Jalen Hurts with Dak line. And then Miles Sanders real quick, Jim, what are your thoughts on him? He's the second highest priced player on this slate for Philly, coming in at 11,000 for them. But he's just the guy to me. Like I kind of like him. Like I watch the games and I'm always just like, how is this dude not killing every week? But just the way he's utilized in the offense, and like we talked about earlier, the running back share is just not what you would want to see from a stud running back or RB1 on a team. So how do you feel about him?
It's that everything you said combined with the fact that the red zone usage has not favored him so far this year. He had 1 of 7 chances last week, and in week 1, he had 0 of 7. So 1 out of 14 red zone chances have gone to Miles Sanders so far, compared to 3 out of 14 for Kenneth Gainwell. And I feel like Gainwell was the guy who was in on the 2-minute drill in week 1. I didn't get to see enough of the week 2 game, but in the week 1, they brought Gainwell in for the 2-minute drill. That limits the chances for Sanders to beef up his target total. He's still gotten work in the passing game, but not as much as I would want. So I think that's my concern, is how likely is he to have a big game? I don't think the odds are that high. So I'm with you, where I can't really get super excited about him, just because it's harder for him to manufacture a big game because of the kinds of touches he gets.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's the same lean that I have on him. I know his question was start Miles Sanders. I'm not sure if you're talking about, fantasy for your teams. I think you start him because it's Monday night and you probably don't have a good replacement. But yeah. Lastly, Kyle, I see you on YouTube. I see you asking about Jalen Reagor. I just can never find myself getting to Jalen Reagor with Devonta Smith and a guy like Quez Watkins on the other side. But I think Jalen Reagor does come in. He is going to be on the field. He is seeing a good rapport with Jalen Hurts. So maybe we get the Jalen connection tonight.
Yeah, the Jalen stack is
The
smart.
Jalen stack.
We lost the Darnold Arnold stack earlier today. That was pretty upsetting. But we still have the Mills Miller between Davis Mills and Anthony Miller stacks. At least we've got something still working for us here.
That is right. That is right. Guys, we're getting ready to wrap it up here on the FanDuel Monday Night Football preview and Q&A. We appreciate everybody who's coming in. Guys, make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We're doing this every Mondays. I'm hosting these. You can follow me on Twitter at @RyanAlexander_W. Ryan Williams here for FanDuel. Jim, any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to watch this game. I love watching Dak Prescott. I love watching Amari Cooper. I love watching Jalen Hurts. So, like, I know that like it used to be a joke how bad the NFC East was to have in primetime, but like I actually get bummed when they're not on the main slate now. So, and I'm also excited tomorrow with MLB back. No MLB today because it's a bad slate. DJ, if you're looking for MLB, I did talk about it in the solo shot this morning. You can check for the timestamp. It's not a good slate, man. So we'll be back tomorrow to talk MLB at 4:30.
Perfect. And we'll be back next week on Monday to talk the Monday Night Football preview for that game as well in week 4. But signing off for myself, Ryan Williams. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at @RyanAlexander_W. Jim Sonis. You can follow him on Twitter at Jim Sonis. And we'll catch you guys next time on the YouTube channel. Until then, good luck with your bets. Peace.